Hi, welcome to the next video where we're going to be talking about the little entrance. As explained in the previous video, the little entrance is technically part of the anarxis, but it really deserved its own video, which is why I'm making this one now. So let's start off with a bit of commentary on the little entrance. St. Maximus the Confessor says that the little entrance represents the first coming of Christ in the flesh, passion, and resurrection. St. Germanos says that it represents the coming of the Son of God into the world. St. Nicholas Cavazzalas says that it represents the manifestation of Christ to the crowds at his baptism. And St. Simeon of Thessaloniki says the little entrance represents the resurrection and ascension of Christ, the coming of the Spirit. So we know that the little entrance follows the anarxis and closes it out. It occurs during the third antiphon, specifically during the refrains. Historically, it was initially performed during the bishop's entrance into the church. This isn't done as much anymore because the bishop is present in the church. And the entrance hymn, "O come, let us worship and fall down," is followed after the deacon intones a petition. Historically, the little entrance was actually the technical start to the Divine Liturgy. It wasn't actually the anarxis, blessed is the kingdom, like we see today. And it was more for the entrance of the bishop into the church, along with the delivery of the gospel book, which was located at another building, transferred it from outside there into the altar and on top of it. For the little entrance of today, we see it as when the gospel is being moved to the altar, initially from the altar itself, circling around outside and then returning through the royal doors. It now occurs also with the bishop, if present, first entering the sanctuary. He is normally outside in his throne during the anarxis. Although nowadays we have a presbyteral liturgy compared with a priest, which is more common than a hierarchical liturgy, which is with the bishop. So you wouldn't be seeing the bishop entering at this point. And both times, either the priest or the bishop would be entering through the holy doors for the first time. There's also a little bit of a hint as to whether or not the gospel is being read during the service. If during the little entrance the gospel comes out with the deacon or the priest, the gospel is to be read later. But if it's with the censer, like you would normally see during a presanctified liturgy, you would not be having a gospel reading. Those would mostly just be the Old Testament readings. So let's look at a top-down rough diagram of the movement of the altar servers, the deacon, and the priest during the little entrance. I tried my best with PowerPoint to make a good representation, but I am not the best graphic designer, unlike Christina, who is editing this video. So it begins with the priest and the deacon standing in front of the altar table, and the acolytes standing off to the side with the torches and cross ready to go. The priest will then pick up the gospel, and the deacon will walk with them in a counterclockwise way around the altar. They will then meet up not too far from the table of oblation and walk together in a line, with the altar servers heading towards the front of the iconostasis. The priest would be in the center, with the cross and the torches flanking them, where the deacon will then intone a petition of wisdom with the gospel book held up, and then he enters into the sanctuary. The priest then enters through the royal doors and follows suit, and then the altar servers will turn in 2 by 2, bowing towards the altar, and then going into whichever side doors that they are currently on. So, although historically the purpose of the little entrance was to bring the gospel from one building into the church and place it upon the altar, now we already have the gospel on the altar being moved out around back to the altar. So what is the purpose of the little entrance today if there's almost no practical need for it? Well, the answer is quite simple and one of the most common themes about the Orthodox Church: tradition. Well, importantly, we've talked quite a bit about Nicholas Kavasilas and his contributions to commentary regarding the Divine Liturgy, but it's with his commentary involving that the whole thing about the Divine Liturgy, how it's set up, is given a representation of the life of Christ. And the little entrance serves one of those particular areas of the life of Christ. Specifically, if the priest is more of a representation of Jesus, the deacon being a representation of the angels, this is bringing the word of God from the heavens, so in the sanctuary, to the people. So kind of showing Jesus's earthly ministry in a representative sort of way. So it ended up becoming this practical purpose that no longer really needed to be done anymore, but gives it now a new symbolic meaning to the Divine Liturgy. So that's really the significance of the little entrance as it is today. It's sort of like the antiphons, which we talked about in the previous video. These are just little snippets of older ancient traditions that have been slowly adapted over the many centuries of the church, but still kind of remain in there, just not to the original purpose that they were put in for. Thank you for joining me in this video about the little entrance, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!